Welcome to Boys episode 195. I am Robbie Ray.
And I am Joshua Jack.
There it is. We
Yeah.
are back with another very special episode. We had an amazing guest this week. I know, Josh, you were super stoked about this, and I
Very
became stoked
Mhm.
after I did some reading, some research, some listening. We have bassist for Teenage Bottlerocket, Miguel Chen. Uh,
Yeah.
Super cool guy, man. I've never met the guy. I didn't know about him other than he played bass in Teenage Bottlerocket, but
Right.
we had a great talk about mortality and just everything going on in the world right now. He's written
Mhm.
a couple of really cool books. I read one of them called The Death of You,
Mhm.
and it's just about mortality and living with the fact that this is all temporary and finding the ways to traverse that and to make the best out of things. I said it in the interview, it was kind of a tough read for me because
Yeah.
I don't really like to spend a lot of time thinking about that stuff because it's scary.
Yeah.
But the book in and of itself was kind of an exercise in accepting that. And, I was really glad I read it. I walked away from reading the book feeling better than I did when I started.
Oh, yeah, and what I liked about it, I mean, I read his other book too that he sent to us. It's I Want to Be Well, which is more of along the lines of kind of accepting things that you can't change, kind of just dealing with life, like letting go of things and that sort of thing. And in that one, at the end of each chapter, there's like either a yogic exercise or a breathing exercise, and he did that in The Death of You as well, and it kind of made it like brought it all in perspective, like a recap.
Yeah.
And it was really man. I think if you have been thinking about mortality or have a fear of death, definitely pick that book up. It'll probably change the way you think about it.
Do you think during, both the COVID situation and then now what's going on in the world, I think there's probably, if you could graph it, there would be a general bump in people thinking about mortality and
Oh
their
yeah.
lives, the lives of others, things like
Oh,
that.
100%, 100%.
So we're going to get right to the episode. We're really excited about this one. But first, some advertisements.
Yeah.
Boyspodcast.com. It's a hub of all things boys. There you will find links to our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as that golden donate button. If you like the show week after week, hit that button, send us a few bucks. We'd really appreciate it. Helps us keep things going. We're paying for this remote service
Uh-huh.
right now, cameras and mics and bandwidth and everything else. So
Yeah.
help
Yeah.
us out if you want to.
Boys is available on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, YouTube, everywhere you can find podcasts. There's a new one every damn day. So wherever you find yours, find us there. Leave a review on iTunes, subscribe everywhere you can subscribe. Really help us out, and it'll help you out. Keep in know with what we're doing.
Email us, boys@boyspodcast.com. Send us some feedback. Put your physical address in the bottom of the email. We'll send you out a sticker pack as a way of saying thanks. Guest ideas, topic ideas, comments, concerns, criticisms, whatever you
Mhm.
want to send our way. We'll be happy to open that email and give it a look with our eyes. Again, that's boys@boyspodcast.com.
Thanks to our sponsors, Anthem. No crack of the Anthem today because a little peek behind the curtain. We did an early show today, and my God, I'm not going to crack open an Anthem at 10 a.m.
Right.
Just not going to do it. But they're located at 908 Southwest 4th Street. The tap room is now open, guys. You can go in, get yourself a beer, hang out. I went yesterday, picked up a growler. They changed their growler. They changed the whole new face. They revamped. It all looks really cool. But man, no one was wearing masks.
Ah,
Employees were. I was like, I felt. Have you gone into public wearing a mask and no one else is, and you feel like the odd duck? Like,
yeah, I did some running around yesterday. I had to go to Walgreens to pick up a few things, and I had to go to a tag agency to take care of some business. And I have a
mhm,
mask in my pocket of my oversized cargo pants and my shell
mhm.
toes and Limp Biscuit T-shirt, and I put the mask on before I go in Walgreens. And that's what's cool about it is most places you go, the employees are wearing masks. A lot of places these days they're supplying the mask for the employees, which is great. But yeah, I was in the minority of people
Yeah,
wearing masks. But you know what? I got mine on. I'm staying away.
yeah.
It is what it is. Yeah, I totally feel you on that, man.
It was scary. But go in there and check it out. You can, if you want to go in and sit down and have a beer, they have all the tables, 6 feet apart and all that kind of stuff. Go check them out. 908 Southwest 4th Street, right here in Oklahoma City. We're also sponsored by Fat Bison. Fat Bison makes some beautiful wood, guys. If you don't know, go check it out, fatbison.com. He'll make you a beautiful wooden sign for your cabin. Summertime. Is it summertime yet? Or are we
It's
still on
close, man. Close
close?
enough.
We're itching it. Hey, it's lake weather. Get a sign to go above your driveway at your lake house, or right there on the porch of your lake house, right next to your bird feeder. He might even make you a bird feeder. Who fucking knows? Fatbison.com. Check him out. We're also sponsored by Manscaped.
That's right. Listen, if you are listening to this podcast stuck inside your house with your significant other, I want you to pay close attention. Today's sponsor, Manscaped, can help you out, and it makes the most of your time together with your loved one. Manscaped promotes clean hygiene when it comes to shaving your balls, your dick, your ass, your pussy. Whatever you got down there, maybe you got a little medley of things. Who cares? Keep it clean with the Manscaped Perfect Package 3.0 kit.
Manscaped is the only men's brand dedicated to below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. The Perfect Package 3.0 kit that Robbie just said comes with the new and improved Lawnmower 3.0 waterproof, which is good if you're taking a shower. Just kick that shit down the drain, man. No one's gonna... And you clean it. Easy cleanability. The cordless body trimmer, ton of other liquid formulations to round out your manscaping routine. I've started a manscaping routine. I do it every couple of days. You don't do it every day. It's like a haircut.
Yeah.
When do you get a haircut? Every couple months?
I'm like a 3-week guy. When there's not a quarantine going on, I'd say 2 to 3 weeks. My hair grows really fast, so
And that my ball hair grows probably about the same rate. So every 3 weeks, get that routine going. Subscribers get a new replacement braid refill for your lawnmower trimmer delivered to your door every 3 months, making sure your trimmer always stays fresh and clean. This is the perfect package for your perfect package. And right now, boys listeners get 20% off plus free shipping with the code BOYS at manscaped.com. Do yourself a favor. Always use the right tools for the job.
That's right. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code BOYS at manscaped.com. Use the code BOYS. That's very important. You go to manscaped.com, you type in BOYS at checkout, you save 20% and you get free shipping. Most people are loading up on toilet paper. You know what? This read is a little bit dated. I think I got all the shit tickets that I need. Most people are loading up on guitars, pedals,
hand sanitizer still. Yeah.
Video games, clothing, shoes, face masks.
Yeah.
Help your relationship out during this quarantine. Listen very closely. Your girl isn't going to want to eat her way through a forest. You got to keep it clean. And hey, guys, it makes your dick look bigger. Trust me. Trust me. I'm a habitual stretcher. I measure from the taint. Keep it clean. Your partner, your body, and your balls will thank you. Now on with the show. Okay, we're here, episode 195, with very special guest Miguel Chen, bassist of Teenage Bottlerocket, writer, and a man of many talents, many outlets. Miguel, thanks for being on the show today, man.
Yeah, dudes. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited about this one, man. I read both of your books. I blazed through them. They're not too long. You have exercises at the end of every chapter, and it got me. My wife does yoga all the time, and I don't at all. And it got me wanting to do it. And like I'm reading it, I'm like, "Hey, babe, can you show me how to do this thing?" She's like, "Yeah." So it got me into like maybe doing a little yoga every now and then.
Right on,
pretty cool
man.
stuff.
So let me ask you, man. So, this show is all about kind of how we got to where we are in life. And I want to talk about the books, but I also want to talk about the band and kind of how you got started in music, what brought you to being, the bass player in Teenage Bottlerocket, and what's going on with the band now and history of the band. So let's go back a little bit and start. When did you know that you were into music? Not just listening to it, but actually playing, performing, recording, and all that.
Yeah, I mean, my mom, I think, really instilled a lot of that in me. And she'd gotten me like a classical guitar and enrolled me in lessons when I was in like second grade or something like that. And so then I was always like taking guitar lessons or then I started playing saxophone and through like school, and then probably around like 7th or 8th grade was like the time I kind of started to realize it was something you could do like just on your own for fun, not really in class, and
Yeah, for a grade.
yeah, and yeah, when I was 13, started my first punk band, and
Can I ask what it
that
was
was
called?
kind of it.
What was it called?
Yeah, our original name was Bumfuck America.
Okay, there's something like every time we have a musician on, we ask like how you got to where you are. What was your first band? It's always 13. That's the magic age.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah,
when I started my
right.
first band was 13.
It's like 13 through 15 is kind of the magical years there
Yeah.
for forming the most awesome band names ever,
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the names
right.
are always great. I think ours was Monotones with a Z. Super cool.
Yeah, man.
Whoa.
And
Yeah,
it's funny. Go ahead, Miguel. Oh, you go
I was
ahead.
gonna say we had to end up changing the band name like 2 weeks later to Kilted Monarchs, which is like super fucking dorky. But like one of the kids' moms was like gonna make him quit the band
Right.
if we didn't change the name. So,
Well, you can't play those
Understandable.
coffee shop shows with Bumfuck America. You gotta,
Yeah.
And Kilted Monarchs kind of sounds like a LARPing group, like you meet in the park and you
Oh,
got like
man.
foam swords.
We had this little like
It's so-
cartoon fucking like punk with like a kilt and a fucking. We thought we were fucking cool. It's
Oh,
quite
yeah.
embarrassing
Oh, yeah.
in retrospect.
It's so funny, man. I was going through, so I was doing some house cleaning last night, and I was going through this. I call it my box of memories. I just have like old photos. We're a little older. You remember we used to actually take photos and get them developed, and that was so exciting. Maybe like with a disposable camera or something. And
Oh, 1 hour photo changed the game.
oh, so great. But I was going through this box, and I found the original J card, like the original handmade one that we ran off cassettes for my very first punk band's very first demo. And man, it was just like it was so funny. There were so many things about it that were noteworthy to me. Like, first of all, we had a GeoCities website, in the J card. We
Oh,
recorded
yeah.
this demo. We were just a little 3-piece pop punk band. We were very influenced by our upbringing, like NoFX, MXPX, things like that. And we recorded this demo after hours in the back of a Mexican restaurant that we had some friends in a band that they worked at this Mexican restaurant. So, and they liked to record, and they had like an old DAP machine, and they basically brought everything up. We cleared out a space in the dining area, and we recorded this demo on a school night from like 10 p.m. to like 2:30 or 3 in the morning. Just everything in one take, just down and dirty.
Oh, yeah.
And man, it was such a great trip down memory lane to have this. So I took a picture of it and put it up on Instagram, and I had a surprising amount of people message me and say, "Holy shit, man, I remember this. I still have this tape. You sold it to me when you worked at Hot Topic." And I was like, "Oh, I was slinging tapes when I was working at Hot Topic in like 1998. It was so great."
Bootlegging those cassettes.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, fuck, man.
I miss those days though. I miss going to Kinko's and running off the flyers or making the J cards or whatever else, making like the sticker paper, the cheap paper stickers that you'd slap up and they'd immediately be destroyed,
Put one on your
mean,
car, and the first
fucking
time it rains, it's gone.
flyers. Oh,
Dude,
yeah.
Man, I miss flyers. Like, I remember being young, and I'm sure you guys remember too, like actually going out and handing out flyers to strangers.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, you
Hitting
go
up
to the
the
mall or
malls.
you go to like a skate shop or you go, wherever. And man, those were, I'm a nostalgic guy, but those were truly like great times. And now it's just like, okay, I'm just going to post it to Instagram real quick and move along with my life,
I just
Wait.
remember fucking trying to hand these things out like at my high school and like just watching people just like crumple it up immediately and just fucking just like
Heart-wrenching,
like
man.
we were just we were like hand one to fucking everyone. Like why wouldn't everyone at this fucking school want to come see our shitty band?
Totally.
it's
Now, did you play bass in the first band?
And I played guitar.
I played guitar.
in that band. Yeah.
Cool.
We
And how-
had horns for a minute.
Oh, nice.
That as was tradition in the late 90s.
Dude, totally. I remember with my pop punk band, we went through this phase where we started using a lot of upstrokes and like kind of trying to like branch out from the like fat beat,
Yeah.
And I remember shopping for some horns, man. Just shopping for horns, like hitting up all the nerds in high school, like, "Hey, man, you're kind of a nerd, but you want to play in my band?" And we never got any, but man, we tried.
Mm-hmm.
We certainly got better once we got rid of the horns, I think. I think we got a little more like I don't know. Yeah.
You cut the fat a little bit and got down to the basics, you know.
Yeah.
So how long was the band a band? Your first band?
I was a band for a few years actually. Probably like 3 years. And immediately when that band broke up, we started another band, and just band after band. Like I just never was not in a band, and at some point I kind of made friends with Ray and Brandon, who at the time were playing in Homeless Wonders, and Cody was doing the Lillingtons, and for us, like Lillingtons at that point was like a big deal because they were from Wyoming, and like they were on Lookout Records, and we're like, what the fuck, like this is really happening. And Brandon especially and Ray, they'd kind of seen like my shitty high school bands all like growing up or whatever, but at some point I think they kind of realized that like out of my crew and out of my friends, I was the one who was kind of like really in it. Like it wasn't so much of a phase, so they really started taking me under their wing. And I think I was probably one of the first people to know. Like Brandon just hit me up and he's like, Homeless Wonders out, Teenage Bottlerocket in. And I was like, what does that mean?
So you're like, you're the buy the van guy. Like, no, we're gonna do this. Like, we're gonna quit our shitty jobs and we're gonna like play as many shows as possible.
Well, there was. I mean, I wasn't even in the band at that point, but like I had a shitty van that I'd gotten off like a daycare or whatever, because in my head, one of my other bands is gonna like do something someday.
Totally.
So why not buy a van, even though we'd like never. We would go to like Colorado sometimes and play Fort Collins or Denver, but like we never ventured more than 2 hours away, right?
But it looks more pro to pull in an old church van, than to pull in your like Nissan Sentra,
Like real fucking punk bands like have their van, like they don't show up in their mom's minivan anymore. And so, it kind of worked out. Like I was buddies with those dudes as they were starting this new band, and I had a van, so like I got to tag along and I got to like sit in on practices and play guitar with them a lot when like their normal guitarist wasn't around, or I got to, start going on tour with them and selling t-shirts and driving. And like, I wasn't fucking even old enough to be in most of the venues they were playing at that point. And it was like, if you don't know anything about our band, at that point, Ray and Brandon, who started the band, they're twin brothers, like identical twins. And so we'd show up to a club and it'd be like, well, fuck, what do we do? Like, they're carding everyone. So Ray would go in, get his fucking wristband, come back out, hand me his ID, which I don't really look that much like Ray, but fucking whatever. I would walk in, hand him Ray's ID, get my wristband, and then Brandon would walk in with his ID, which looks like fucking identical to Ray's ID, and get a wristband. And it worked.
Now, did it work? Did it work more often than it didn't work? It worked most of the time?
It never didn't work.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
There was not once. I like couldn't believe it. I was like, these door guys just like don't fucking pay attention. They don't think it's weird that like they essentially just saw the same ID 3 times in a row.
Yeah, they're not paying attention to names. They're just like, DOB, check out that date of birth. They're good to go.
Simpler times back then, you know?
Yeah. I mean, yes and no. There was simpler in those aspects, but also like I remember like maps and also like Google Maps, like fucking routing out our entire tour, like from one venue to the other, printing out driving directions and just having like a fucking like stack.
Yeah, like a Bible. You have like a MapQuest was the worst, but you know.
That's what we used. We used MapQuest, and I remember like even we're from Oklahoma, and even going down to like Dallas was a big deal when you're 16 or 17 years old. And this was before the luxury of the iPhone or CarPlay or Apple Maps or Google Maps even. So you'd have this piece of paper, and you'd get down there, and you'd get turned around, and you'd be like, I have no fucking clue where I'm at.
Yeah, and you're like, it's a sketchy part of town. You're like, oh, I don't want to go ask for directions.
Yeah, or you'd have to go to like a gas station and hope the attendant working there A was nice and B like knew what the fuck where they were,
Yeah, knew what shitty venue you were playing in,
Yeah, we always Cody was like our map master. Like if we were fucked, Cody would just like sit in his bench for like 5 minutes, and then eventually we'd be back on our way. But yeah, so
So tell me
simpler in
about
some regards, but not
true,
all.
true that. So tell me about Teenage Bottlerocket. You said this started pretty early on. What year did it start?
The band started in 2000, and then they released their first 7-inch in 2001. I started touring with them like 2002 or so is when they started feeling comfortable taking me on the road. 2002, 2003, and then the band kind of started like picking up momentum, did their 2 full lengths, and Cody joined the band in 2004, and then yeah, like 2005 is when Total came out, which I think was like the first record that people like really started to pay attention to. And that's when like the touring really started to pick up pace. And when I was like at that point going on every tour, I was like full-time fucking merch dude.
Right.
We had a tour lined up with the Epoxies, who were a Fat Records band, which was like a huge fucking deal. And the other guitarist, Joel, it was seriously like 2 weeks before tour, was like, hey dudes, I can only do like the first like 10 days. It was like a 6 or 7 week tour. He could only do like the first 10 days or something. And in his head, he was like, yeah, so we got to just like cancel the rest of the tour or something. And it was just like, yeah, fuck you, man. Like,
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
we're doing this fucking tour. And like, so Joel was out and I was in. And like, by that point, finally, I was, old enough to drink and be in all the fucking bars, which, I think in retrospect, I probably would have been in Bottlerocket much earlier if I was a few years older,
Yeah. Yeah, the first band I was ever in, I started playing guitar when I was 14. Before that, I wasn't ever like an uber jock, but I played some sports. Like I played baseball, and my dad raced motocross, so that was kind of what I was into when I was young. And I got my first guitar, and it was probably 6 to 8 months after I got my first guitar that I joined my first. It was like a hardcore band.
Yeah.
And I was the second youngest person in the band. The singer, main guy in the band, was like 10 years older than us. So he could play anywhere, but the other 3 of us, especially me and the bass player, we were the young ones. But there was something special about kind of being taken in under somebody's wing, because he was in bands before, and he kind of showed us the ropes. And I'm really thankful for him looking back, because if it wasn't for that, there wouldn't have been the next band and the next band. And it was an awesome time, man.
Totally, man. Yeah. Like,
so
even Homeless
what were
Wonders.
your,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No,
go
ahead,
I was about to say, like, yeah, with like the older thing, like, Homeless Wonders, the small band from Laramie, and they'd moved to Phoenix, and then they moved back, but like they would do tours, which like now looking back and knowing more about it, I'm like, it was basically nothing, but at least they were out there doing it. But like to us, that was a big fucking deal. And so to like get to join like this crew and this band with these guys who had done these things, yeah, it was like it was a big important thing. Like and the few years age difference, like in that pocket of time, like your teens to like your mid 20s, like a few years difference is a lot more meaningful. Like they've had so much more like now, everyone's basically the same age, even though
yeah, exactly. I think once you hit about 25, that's when it doesn't matter as much, much like dating, if you're 18, you're not going to date a 14-year-old, but if you're 29, you'll date a 25-year-old,
Yeah.
Formative years for sure.
Well, it's also the same thing with like not just like being friends with people who are different ages. It's also time goes by much slower than I remember from 18 to like 25, and looking back at 25 and being like, man, high school was so long ago. Like, no, it wasn't, dude. It was like a few years ago. And now like I'm 38, and I look back to like a Facebook memory pops up from like my 30th birthday, and I'm like, that was 8 years ago?
Oh, dude.
Felt like yesterday. Like, Like, what
Yeah,
the fuck?
but where have you been the last like 2 or 3 months? Like,
Yeah.
time can move fucking slow
Yes, it
Yeah.
can.
when it wants.
Yes, it can,
Well,
man.
now, yeah.
But that is interesting because I remember my old man telling me when I was a kid, like, I'd be like 14, 15 playing guitar in my room during like the lazy days of summer, and just being like, man, I'm bored. Oh, this is going so slow. And my old man would always tell me, like, it only goes faster from here. And he was totally right. Like, he's right about a lot of things that I've realized as I get older myself. It's like, I'm 39. I don't feel 39. I don't feel like I should be 39, but it feels like what Josh said, if a memory pops up online or you go through an old hard drive or find an old, digital camera in a drawer, you're like, holy shit, this was 10, 12 years ago. That seems like it was like 2 years ago.
And then you start doing the
man.
math, and it's like, okay, well, 10 years from now, I'll be 48. Fuck. Like, and it's just going to keep going faster. I mean, that's something you touch on in The Death of You. It's like, hey, man, it's coming. It happens. Just you got to be cool with it. Have no choice. Yeah.
You
And
can't
it's
fight that
17
shit.
minutes and 54 seconds when I brought up mortality. It happens almost every show that comes
This
up.
Josh was just like chomping at the bit for this episode. I was like,
Oh,
Josh, this
man.
is your wheelhouse, man.
Yeah, so like how long ago do you think it was? Like probably about 5 years ago. I had like a real like come to Jesus moment in like the mortality realm of like that, in the middle of the night you can't go to sleep because a thought just pops in your head and goes, hey, one day you're not going to be here anymore. And you're like, okay, you try to shut it down. Your mind just keeps going, no, you're going to be dead. Like, you're gone. And like that just like scared the shit out of me. And, I got into like Eckhart Tolle, Power of Now, and all that kind of stuff. And that kind of calmed me up. But man, every now and then that thought creeps in. And you could be as zen as you want to be. The thought of death is still kind of scary as shit,
I
Not to
mean,
bring the
what
mood
makes
down,
it?
but-
No. I love talking about this shit, but like for me, what makes it less scary is to think about it all the time. Just think about it constantly. Like basically every day of my life in one form or another, I at least think about it. Like, this week, of course, there's like all kinds of shit going on in the news, and there's like a fucking virus and fucking like cops killing innocent people, and like it's it's there. It's if you want to find ways to mindfully think about or connect to the idea of death and dying, like it's in your fucking face. You have
no choice.
You just gotta kind of like sit with it and look at it honestly instead of like, ooh.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I'm the same way. So when I started The Death of You, Josh sent me the PDFs that you sent over, so I got to read it. And I'm going to be totally honest, man. I first started reading it one night laying in bed right before I went to sleep. And I'm the same way as Josh is about mortality. I don't like to think about it, to be honest, because like when I started your book, I was reading it, and that first chapter, I mean, you don't pull any punches. It's like, here it is right off the bat. And I started reading it, and I was probably about 3 or 4 pages into it, and I started getting these feelings, like these intense feelings of mortality, and you only have a certain amount of time. And I started looking around my bedroom, and I was like, all of this is fleeting. Like, it doesn't matter if I got that new bass or if I this or that, which it does matter and it doesn't matter. So that's the weird like dichotomy.
Yeah.
But I'm going to be totally honest, man. Like I had a struggle getting into that book at first because I don't like to think about that stuff. But I think that in and of itself was an exercise in kind of what you talk about. Like, it's going to happen whether you like it or not. You can be positive about it, you can be negative about it, but either way, we're here now and someday we won't be. Like you said in the book, like, here I'm alive, over there I'm not. Like that really rang true to me. And like Josh said, it starts making you think about what's important. What am I going to do with myself? Not even on a year-to-year basis, but on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Man, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Finish your thought
Okay.
because I'm
We're working with new
for a minute.
technology here. Yeah. But man, it's interesting because like, I work, we do the podcast, I have other hobbies. Yeah, it weighs really heavy on me. And reading that book was a really great exercise in kind of coming to terms with things and realizing that, yes, everything is fleeting, but you got to make the most of the time that you have, because there'll be Saturdays sometimes where, I've worked all week, I'm tired, I've got the girlfriend and the kid and the house and the dogs and everything else, and I won't want to do anything, even little things.
Yeah.
Like right now I'm really into playing Street Fighter. Like that's just my shit right now. But I'll be looking forward to it all week, and then when Saturday comes around, I don't even have the like energy to do that. And then it's like a weird cycle, because then I'll be upset at myself, like, oh, you wasted a day. Oh, you've only have so many days and you wasted one. Oh, you piece of shit, and it just, I got to get out of that, man. I got to get out of that.
I mean, it's not about like wasting or not wasting. You like whether you're doing or not doing something, it's more about like the connection you have to doing or not doing anything. So like I think it's perfectly acceptable to like spend a day not doing shit, and like in fact I like really actively will have days or weeks where I'm like I'm not thinking about work or writing or whatever the fuck, like things that I love, where I'm gonna do jack shit. And because I think at the end of our life, like we can look back on those days too and like feel like it was meaningful and good, as long as we're like with it, like if we're just kind of fucking like sitting on a couch fucking half resting but not really resting, like that's maybe not so skillful. But like if you're doing it with like a purpose, like fuck yeah, do nothing. Like who gives a shit? Like there's no such thing as a wasted day. Like we feel this pressure to be productive or to have tons and tons of experiences, and all that is important, but just as important is like the experience of not doing things or
right.
Like non thinking. So I teach a lot about like sort of this balance between like creativity and surrender, and there's times when it's like do nothing, think about nothing. Like the more you try and like plan and control like every little like facet of your life, like you're still playing the fucking game,
right?
Even if you're like, oh, I don't want to die and feel like I wasted my life, you got to be careful going too far that other direction, right?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Trying to plan everything. Like there will be a week where I'm like just drained from working so hard and doing whatever extracurriculars that I do. But when it's time to rest, I feel like I didn't really rest, because I'm spending that resting time thinking about, oh, I should be doing this or I shouldn't be doing this, and that's where the vicious circle kind of keeps eating itself over and over. It's like, dude, there is a time to just turn it off and just relax, You got to do it.
I think it's funny I say I think before this sentence I'm about to say. I think that most people don't spend enough time not thinking. But like really, truly, genuinely fucking nothing. Like,
blank slate.
Yeah. And and like in meditation, people kind of come to it with this like, oh, I'm gonna sit and not think, or I'm gonna like clear my mind or whatever. But I think the more you try to fucking do that, like the less you can do that. And it's just like a really classic, like, don't think about pink elephants or whatever the fuck.
Right.
It's like really truly doing nothing is just as much like you're not grabbing onto it and you're not like fucking holding onto it, but you're also not like shoving it away and trying to get rid of it.
Well, because that in and of itself is work,
Yeah, it is.
Because it'll end up biting you in the ass later, because that whatever sweeping it under a rug. Well, eventually you got to fucking look under that rug. Like it's gonna pop right back out, and it's gonna be worse because
you're giving it more power by trying to ignore it and
it's
push
building
it up.
up.
It's more about like taking periods of rest where you're more of like a passive observer of your thoughts than you are an engager or antagonist. You know, it's just
Mm-hmm.
you see him come and you see him go, and you do nothing either way.
Well, let me ask you this. You know, I've dabbled in some meditation. I went through a kind of a phase like Josh did, where I was like, "What does it all mean? What book am I going to read to make this right, or what am I going to do?" And I got into some meditation, but again, I fell into that cycle of thinking too much about it. So, not to put you on the spot, but what would you say like some general, like broad tips are for somebody that wants to get into meditation but has never done it, or like me, didn't really know how to do it? What would, I mean, do you have any like just, you know, a couple of like really simple things?
Yeah, like the very, very most basic advice and what I give to most of like my beginner students is you're just sitting and breathing. And I find that like if we try to guide them too much or give them too many directions, they start to think. Like everything you give them to think about, at first they're going to think about. So if you give them just sit and breathe, simplifies it quite a bit. Now,
Yeah.
if you want to like dive in a little deeper, you know, then you start to bring awareness actively to your breathing. And the reason we do this is we see our mind and it's doing like 10,000 things. It's going one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And we're trying to get our mind essentially to do no things once in a while. And it's easier to get your mind to do one thing than it is to do zero things. So we give our breathing as sort of the anchor. So just notice yourself inhale, notice yourself exhale. And that's your practice. And then if you notice that you're noticing something else, just come back.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, the breathing thing is like, I was on my lunch break at work the other day, and there's an NPR story about people who have trouble breathing through their nose, like deviated septum and stuff, and like they send them to like, you know, like meditation, like yoga place, because like it's your brain. They said you don't think about breathing; it just happens. But if you ever get a little too stoned, you have that thought of, "Am I breathing?" Yeah, everyone's had that like freak out moment.
How long have I been
And you're
breathing
like,
on my own? Whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah, how the fuck do you do it? I think about that every now and then. Like before I go to bed, I'm like, my brain knows while I'm asleep to keep breathing. And then I used to think, well, why is all the meditation about breathing? Duh, we all breathe. It's like, oh, that's it, because it's the basic thing that keeps you alive. And if you just, you know, think about what, I mean, it's the life force of your body, really.
It is.
And that's really all that fucking matters at the end of the day, is keeping this fucking meat vessel alive. Breathing's the key, you know?
I mean, there's kind of two facets, I think, to breathing. Like from a yogic perspective, absolutely what you just said. We see our actual breathing and the air. We call it prana, and that's like your life force. The coming in and going out of that's the reason you're alive. And once that stops, you're not alive. But the other facet of it is that breathing is such a metaphor for the entirety of our life. In the things come and you take them in and then you let them go. And if you don't take it in as it comes, like, you're fucked. If you don't let it go when it's time to let it go, you're fucked. Like it's all just one big lesson in taking and letting go.
Totally makes sense. The other thing I noticed when I was reading the book is, you know, not only do I think about my own mortality, but I think about the mortality of people around me. Whether it's my dad, who's in his 60s, and when I was a kid, you know, he was invincible. He was this young, vibrant guy that raced motocross and was awesome to us. Well, now I go out and see him. He lives about 45 minutes from me. I'll go see him every few weeks, you know, and, you know, he's getting old, man. He's getting gray. He's getting short. He's, you know, his voice is changing. His body is changing. And when I start thinking about my old man, who was really like my rock through my entire life, my mom was a different story. But my dad was always there, and you lead yourself to believe that they always will be there. But the truth is they won't always be there. You know, it could happen earlier, like some people, or it could happen later. But the truth is it's going to happen. And that was going through my mind as well. Like, I need to call my dad. Oh, fuck, I need to call my old man. Tell him I love him, you know? And but I think you're right. Like, when that time comes, whether it's my father or anybody else's, anybody, it could be their child, it could be their sibling, whatever, you have to, you talked about the stages of grief and how those stages aren't always necessarily in a certain order, but like you
Yeah.
said, you have to take it in and then you have to let it go. I lost my grandma probably, I don't know, 8 years ago at this point. And I've been really lucky in my life. That was the first person in my immediate family that we had to say goodbye to. So I'm super lucky in that regard. But at the same time, it doesn't mean it wasn't hard for me too. It's hard for everybody. And I felt like I handled the death of my grandma, who was pretty much my mother figure, my entire life. I think I handled it about as well as I could, but I also remember laying on my bathroom floor, like crying and like throwing up because I was so upset about it. It was the night that, I'm the tech guy in the family, so I made her slideshow for the funeral. And, all my relatives were sending me these photos and they wanted to put her favorite songs in it and stuff like that. And that was the night that I had the huge breakdown. But even though I was laying on the bathroom floor and crying and throwing up and sweating and not sleeping, I felt like that was an important step to take in my process.
No, absolutely. It's people want to avoid the crying and the feeling sad and the being really upset and even like physically ill over loss. And it's really the like suffering comes from wanting to avoid that stuff. It's okay. It's just, it's
absolutely.
part of it. And
Yeah, you talk about that in the book too. Like, there's different ways of grieving and dealing with loss. You said some people, drink it away. Some people like hold it in, and no matter like if they're an 80-year-old grandmother, a 13-year-old kid gets hit by a bus. Like, death is death. We say it's like you said in the book. When someone's old, it's always like, well, they lived a long life, but it's still a death. It's still something.
Absolutely.
It hurts, especially in Robbie's case, they're throwing up on a bathroom floor.
Yeah.
But that's part of like holding it in and letting it out, like you had all that stuff build up and then seeing all those pictures like, well, here it comes.
Yeah, that's exactly.
It's better to get that out than
imagine. Yeah, you could have held that in for like a decade.
Yeah.
And that shit caused like actual physical manifestations of like disease and like
that's cancer. That's
literally kill you.
Like I absolutely believe that's where cancer and similar diseases come from. Like, the fact you had to go through that and you had to experience that, and you might again someday. It might just pop back up, and that's okay. But it's still like, no, not gonna feel this, not gonna do that, and like holding it fucking in. That like that's poison. Feeling the fucking deep, devastating loss, really, truly, openly, isn't a bad thing. Like, it hurts, but it's not a bad thing.
Yeah. Robbie, you're talking about like seeing your dad get older and like aging. We all think about that too. That's another part of the mortality conversation is, you get out of the shower, you look in the mirror and you start seeing more lines and wrinkles in the face, like gray hairs, getting older. And I put on my notes here something I wanted to ask you about, Miguel, is like aging gracefully. It's something everyone says, like, accept your gray. Like, I'm gray as shit. And it's like, accept the gray, age gracefully. But then, you see all these commercials on TV for like creams to make your wrinkles go away, like just for men hair dye and shit. Like, what's your take on that? Like, I think it's ridiculous. I think dyeing your hair, blue, green, that's cool. But like to try to make yourself look younger, I don't know. It's one of those weird things that we live in a world that tells us two different things. Like, accept who you are, but then also, but be young because you
spend millions
money.
of dollars to try and stay young. Yeah, it's fucking. It's hard. It's not an easy thing. I always think about this fucking parallel about like, all right, Teenage Bottlerocket, and like the band is 20 fucking years old. Like, we're all well past teenagers, and like there's a little bit this, we latched onto this fucking teen thing, but like we're all getting much older, and like,
middle-aged Bottlerocket.
If Cody grows a beard, it's like this big gray fucking gnarly thing, like,
right.
And there's just a level of like, you don't want to, you know, especially like in this punk rock and like Ramones and Descendants, like you don't want to grow up or you don't want to grow old in one sense, but it's also futile and embracing like I'm getting older. Like there's so much cool stuff about it. It's just I think the best thing we can do is let go of expectations like as much as we possibly can. You know, in my head I'm like, when the hair fucking finally starts to go, like if I start to fucking really bald, I'll shave my head.
Exactly.
Everyone expects it. I'm like the fucking meditation guy. It's like a Buddha thing or whatever. But like, there's still some fucking like attachment there. But
A little ego in there.
at least I
saying,
can
like,
see
can't let
it.
go.
Yeah, at least I
Yeah.
can fucking see it, which I think is a big step. And like rather than constantly trying to like fix it or control it, you know, I can just sort of recognize like, yeah, there's a part of me that like doesn't want to fucking be bald or like fat or wrinkly or
Right.
or whatever. And then there's another part of me that probably will be all of those things
Totally.
at some
Yeah,
point.
but you
My
said, like,
daughter
it-
just hopped real quick.
Hey there.
Cutie patootie.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
Let's get out of here.
Yeah, I totally understand. I've always told myself, because I've had thin hair since I was a kid, you know. I'm not going bald or anything, but I've always had really fine, thin hair. But I've always told myself, I am the last person in the world that's going to hang on to the dream. If I start seeing the patches or the receding, I'm Bruce Willis,
It's
Telly
fucking
Savalas.
gone.
It's
Gone.
coming off,
It's gone.
you know.
Like the Joe Rogan thing, like he's had his head shaved for so long, and then you see something like a picture of him on news radio, and like, oh shit. But he even talks about that a lot. Like he started going bald young, and he fought like tooth and nail to try to hold on to it, and then he's had a moment of zen of like, just let it go, man, just let it go.
But could it be said that like the head shaving or whatever is just like kind of another attachment to the same fucking thing? Like,
Yeah.
like really the fucking non-attached guys, the fucking like George Costanza, fucking
Right.
Oh yeah,
Larry
horseshoeing it.
David,
Dude,
like you
I
Horseshoe.
know.
have
doing
that
it.
thought all the time. Like, why keep it? Just shave it all. But they're like, no, fuck it. This is what I look like. This is me naturally. This is what I look like. And I feel like there's this whole movement, especially on like Instagram and shit, for like, you know, beauty standards for women, and you know, don't fat shame. You're beautiful however you are. But I don't feel like that's the same for men. I think we get a little bit like yeah, ladies love a gray haired man, but they're always fit. You know, like, they're always like they're like George Clooney's, but no one's saying like George Costanza, man. I'd eat him up. You know what I mean? Like,
But like inherently the cards have always sort of been stacked in our fucking favor. Like
That's true.
men have had partners who are like way like more beautiful. Like in my
Absolutely.
head,
Yeah.
I'm like generally women are like these beautiful pristine creatures and men were like fucking
Beasts, man.
yeah.
yeah. Oh, we're gross. We're disgusting.
So, you know, I think it's okay if it's a little stacked a little bit now. Like, okay, it's expected of us to like, we're going to try and meet them in the middle a little bit. Like,
Right.
you know,
It's like our side of the middle, you know.
yeah, it's still our side of the middle. We still get away with being like kind of squishy, hairy, like, ugh. And, you know, but yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting because I think it's like such an individual fucking thing. Like all of us, I believe, are going to get there as individuals. At some point in our life, we're going to be like, okay, it's beyond my control and I have to accept this. But like as societies, you know, I don't know that happens in lifetimes, or if it does, it like cycles in and out. And it can be said for like anything, like trying to look young or social standards or even fucking like racism or fucking something. You know, you would think that would have been cleaned out of the system by now, and in some ways it was, but then it just waves back in, and it's because all of this like real personal growth is so individual, and each of us has to fucking do it.
Yeah, I think it's like kind of like what you touched on, like, sweeping things under the rug, or like not thinking like we thought we got rid of racism, but no, it would be kind of like put it in a closet. Like when you fill everything in a closet and you open it and it all falls down. I think that's what happened. We just like pushed it onto a closet. Like no, racism. There's no such thing as white supremacy. We're good. We're all good. Yay!
Yeah.
And then someone goes, "Hey, what's in this closet? Holy shit!" And it's just like
Yeah, and then
people just killing.
next
black
thing you know,
people
yeah,
for no
cities
reason.
are burning, and I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have to go off on a huge tangent, but I think we need to address what's going on.
Oh, definitely.
George Floyd was killed by a police officer. There's no doubt about it. I guess 2 days ago, I wake up pretty early because we have to work pretty early, and I like to wake up even earlier so I can have a little like alone time. Maybe it's my form of meditation, just like sitting in my dark living room, not thinking for a few minutes, maybe sipping a cup of coffee, getting ready to take on the day, whatever that may bring. That sounds super cheesy, but I actually watched the video, which, I'm not a glutton for punishment. I don't watch Faces of Death, to date myself there, Rob, but I don't watch like torture porn or Saw or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I was like, you know what? I'm going to watch this video and I'm going to formulate my own opinion, because it's so easy to have an opinion pushed on you from social media or the news or friends or
The
whatever.
headlines, yeah.
And I watched the video at about 5:30 in the morning. And let me tell you, that was a real good way to start the day and to not think about mortality the rest of the day. But I mean, my opinion is, and I don't think that I'm in the minority here, dude was killed very, very unjustly so. And I understand, people have feelings, these pent-up aggressions and these reactions. And then my girlfriend and I we were just like flipping news channels last night and watching coverage of these riots. And I mean, I remember Rodney King and the riots back then. I was young when that happened, but I remember it. I remember watching it on TV with my dad. And I don't know, maybe because everything's in HD now, but it seems worse now than it was back then. Or maybe it wasn't. I don't know. But I mean, it's happening all over the United States. And it was just so shocking to watch what's going on and seeing, an AutoZone burn down or a Mercedes-Benz dealership just getting trashed. And, I understand as much as I can understand it. I understand frustration and that, but I guess the point of all this is, dude, this is fucking wild.
It is.
Yeah.
Super
I
wild.
think that's what's happening right now is what happens. We talked about it earlier about holding things in. When you hold things in as a society for so long and you dismiss it, that's not gonna just ooze out. It's not gonna go, oh, we need justice. It's like, no, fuck this. We need justice. And they're gonna fucking burn shit to the ground. I think that's it's the pendulum flipped so, you know what I mean? Like so drastically that I don't think the police officer would have been arrested if it wasn't for the protests and the riots. I think it would have went swept under the rug. I think I'm not inciting riot. I'm not saying that's what we have to do, but I think, man, for every action, there's an equal but opposite reaction.
Absolutely. I think it's in like Buddhism, and it's so much about like middle path. Like the truth is always in the middle, and balance lies in the middle, and things have been so fucking far out of balance one direction that it only makes sense. It has to fucking go far, far the other direction to bring things back to the middle. And like me, I'm just like, how can I help? Like that's where I'm at. It's certainly not my place to like condemn or think about anyone's action. It's also not my place to like put myself in physical danger. I'm a dad. I have a young daughter, but like I'm fucking here to help any way I can. And like I'm a teacher, and I try to like going back to what we were saying just a little bit ago, it's like an individual thing. Like people have to wake up as individuals, and if enough people like wake up, then as a greater whole, we've woken up. And so I'm like, how can I help a few people wake up? Like, where do I take action? Where do I shut up? And where do I support? And it's an interesting taking in and letting go. It's an interesting fucking time, but I'm with you. I'm not sure that cop would have been arrested had it not been for this, and I certainly think he should be. Like, not so long ago in Laramie, Wyoming, where I grew up, a police officer shot and killed like one of our buddies who was like a paranoid schizophrenic guy
Mm-hmm.
who's like fucking afraid of cops. And like the dude's mom fucking would have meetings with the police department to teach them about schizophrenia for years and be like, and this is my son Robbie, and if he runs, don't be afraid, call me this. And this fucking guy, Derek Colling, who had previously shot and murdered 2 other people in Las Vegas, fucking shot our buddy and killed him. And instead of getting arrested or tried for any of it, he got promoted to a fucking detective.
Oh, wow.
And we were there, and we fucking like did what we could to try and like raise awareness about it. But like it wasn't enough to fucking get even the city of Laramie, Wyoming to bring one of their own to fucking justice. So like what's going on right now, I think sort of a long time fucking coming, and like whatever people feel like they need to do to get their voices actually fucking heard, like I'm on team, I'm on board. Like fucking yeah, we all die someday, and on some level or another, I don't want people to be afraid of dying, and I want people to feel like maybe you carry on after life and whatever, and to see life as sort of a game in a fucking way, but it's a very precious, valuable thing to be born as a human being, and to take that from somebody it demands justice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, like the Laramie cop, this Chauvin fella, it wasn't his first rodeo at killing innocent people too. I mean, he's got a record, and
Yeah.
I think it's something like it doesn't just happen once. It wasn't an accident. It was purposely done. I think people need to be brought up. Not just him, but the other 3 cops that were there too. I mean, not to keep talking about it, it's a very important thing, but it's very maddening, and also to know that there's absolutely nothing, and it's like mortality and death. Like there's absolutely nothing that I can do about it. What has to be done is up to the judicial system. It's up to fellow cops to call out their coworkers, I guess, and be like, hey, that's not cool. That's not cool. Hey, it's not cool to kill innocent people.
Hey, man,
You would
that
think
ain't
you would
cool.
just- hey, not
I mean,
cool.
it ain't fucking cool.
No, it's not cool.
It ain't cool, man.
Nothing
And that's the
cool
thing,
about
like,
it.
But
No, like I don't have to worry when I get pulled over. I haven't been pulled over in ages, knock on wood. But when I do, I get flustered and worried about like, oh man, we get a fucking ticket. I'm gonna be late to work. I don't have to worry about getting pulled out of my car and killed. And I think that's something that a lot of white people are starting to see during all of this. Like if you didn't already before know that systemic racism is a thing and people die because of it, like I think now everyone's kind of, like you said, hopefully waking up, and maybe we can right the ship before it sinks.
The only thing I'm
Sadly.
afraid of, though, is whether it's the killing of a guy or the riots or anything. Miguel, earlier you said the middle path. I feel like I'm kind of a middle path kind of guy. Like I'm not super left, I'm not super right, I'm not super religious, I'm not super anti-religious. Like I'm just a corny middle-aged white dude from Oklahoma. So sometimes I feel like I don't have a dog in the fight. But like I was on social media the last couple of days, and I'm seeing like all of this stuff, just constant, just a barrage of messages from people, and it's like, I saw people posting things like, if you're not posting about this, then you're part of the problem. And that starts to weigh on you. It's like, well, am I a part of the problem? Or do I not want to say anything because I don't really know what to say? I don't want to just like repost a picture just to do it. If I felt truly convicted, or if I felt like that was really going to matter, but I don't think regramming someone is really going to do much. I mean, I guess it does raise awareness, but I mean, it's out there. Like you can't not see this right now. So
yeah. But there's also the like idea, like, you or me, we post about this, and to some extent we're just preaching to the fucking choir, because I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook who know about this, and they're all fucking upset.
Yeah.
Just like I'm not changing anyone, you know? So then it comes upon us to like see like, well, how can we help, or what can we do? And like, so again, for me, like I'm a teacher, and I teach like love and peace, and I teach inner awakening and that kind of, so it's just refocusing my efforts on like, who can I have impacts on, and how can I, it just takes us like doing our small parts in whatever way it looks like. Like, yeah,
Right.
just posting about it on Facebook for the sake of posting about it on Facebook, maybe not your place, and maybe won't have any impact, but there's other stuff. Like, we can look at our greater work and our greater purpose on this earth. And absolutely, like, this last week has revamped my, like, the things I write about and the things that I teach my students, like, isn't just about like, oh, let's feel good and fucking breathe. It's about like, you only have so much fucking time here. You have to fucking make it matter. And part of that means being of service somehow.
Right.
However your unique gifts and circumstances allow you to do that.
Yeah, it blows my mind that, like, and maybe it's just an awakening that people need to have. It blows my mind that more people, the whole world, isn't just like, hey, you know what's cool is like peace and love and like just giving a shit about your fellow man. I'm not asking you to give your fellow man all of your money, or I'm just asking you not to kill them or not to be mean. Just be nice, be cool. Like, can we not just be cool?
Can you imagine what a fucking awesome world?
Yeah.
Like
just be cool, man. That's it. All you got to do.
Think about, like, not to get like too fucking political, but think about like universal basic income and just like giving everybody like enough to get by each month. Like, our country could fucking afford that if we weren't like fucking bailing
Giving
out
$3
like
trillion
giant fucking
to
corporations and churches
to
and
Wall
shit. If
Street.
we're giving a shit about people, and then inherently, because everyone has their basic needs met, like, there's less crime, there's less violence, there's less separation, there's more like, yes, you're unique and I'm unique and we're different, but we're also connected and the same, and just honoring each other that kind of way. Like we could fucking have a colony on fucking Mars by now. We could fucking like, and
well, with that UBI, you're also giving them not just like money to pay their bills. You're taking that stress level down of like, how am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to pay my rent? And that stress, like we said earlier, turns into cancer and diseases. So it affects your overall health, your mental well-being. It gives you more like, and you're not stressing out. You don't have to work 2-3 jobs to pay the bills. Now you have more time to do that thing you like doing. Do you want to start a podcast? Start a podcast. Are you into drawing and art?
And those are ways that you can fucking help people.
Exactly.
That like you specifically can help people. Like, it's definitely not lost on me. Like, yeah, this punk band or this stupid punk band like helps people in, and it's not about me. It's about the good that it can put out into the fucking world. And so I believe everyone has like their punk band or their whatever it is, like if they like drawing or they like doing podcasts or they like writing, like everyone probably has dozens of these things, at least like a handful of things that they love to do, and that there are ways they can do that help other people. But like this fucking pressure to like produce or even just survive is so heavy that no one gets to really bring out what's inside of them. And like, taking care of each other relieves that pressure and allows us to do more good in the world. So yeah.
Well, speaking of your band or bands and podcasts and everything like that, kind of going back a little bit, how has Teenage Bottlerocket dealt with, the COVID situation? I mean, clearly like tours are being canceled left and right, people aren't recording or making music. How are you guys traversing this right now?
Just kind of one day at a time, man. We, for us, it's like our main gig. It's what we do. Like, the band is how I pay my mortgage. So like that being gone, there's a certain amount of stress, but I have enough practice and enough like surviving through uncertainty that I'm creative and I keep creating. But yeah, the band has been real like, well, we can't just cancel our shows right off the bat because there are promoters and there are venue workers and there are merch people and there's people on the other side of this that if we just immediately we're fucking them over. At the same time, we can't play shows where we would be putting ourselves or anybody at a health risk. So it was real like day by day, what's the next right thing to do? And first it was, okay, we're going to postpone all these shows. And then it became, okay, even the postponed dates don't work. Now we have to cancel. And it's been a real honest effort to try and do right by everybody. And then at some point accepting that this is beyond our control. And so it's that surrender aspect. And yeah, I mean, it fucking sucks. Like I'm used to seeing these guys every month, like twice.
Yeah, you
even.
guys, like, Teenage Bottlerocket is a touring band. You
Yeah.
guys are, it seems like you're always out. I mean, you guys hit Oklahoma City at least once
Totally.
in a year. Like, you're always out.
Every month I usually fly out to do a tour, like, and it's a big fucking change in that aspect. It's a big change, like not playing and not seeing people, and even like the financial aspects, like, oh fuck. But again, it's this taking in and letting go, and I could try and hold on to the way I want things to be right now, and that's not going to make things that way.
Right.
So it's just a little bit of a game of what now. And so now I'm like, well, time to work on books, time to work on online courses. And
right now you're in the middle of writing a children's book. Is that right?
I released a kid's book.
You released it. Okay.
Yeah. Right now I'm actually working on a couple of things. I'm working on a book about humans and dogs with my buddy Brad Bevel, who runs Bevel Dog Behavior here, which is kind of like a spiritual approach to that, like how humans and dogs can help each other sort of evolve and come into like fuller versions of ourselves. And then I'm working on a course about like creativity and meditation and trying to bring out like what's inside us for the greater good to try and help other
very much
other
needed right
people.
now.
And I think right at the very beginning of this podcast, we were talking about like, it's not about figuring out what you're going to do next year. It's about figuring out what you're going to do today or this week or, and so that's my main approach. And that's the band's main approach through this whole COVID situation is, okay, what's happening this week?
Right.
Nothing, or is there something we can do online? Is there some presence we can have, or is it time to sit back and be quiet? And, are we writing a song right now, or are we resting? And, yeah, it's a week by week kind of thing.
And where people can find
Let me ask you this, Miguel.
I was going to say
That's what I was gonna say.
TeenageBottlerocket.com.
Go for it.
Yeah, check out their stuff. Buy some merch. So you guys have a bunch of new merch up there, some cool stuff. I say that for any band. If you love a band, go to their website, buy stuff directly from them, put some money in their pockets, because they're not being able to do. The whole industry's shut down right now. So
Absolutely.
help everybody out. Do that. And where can they find your
people?
books?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry,
Just,
I jumped on. Sorry.
No, it's all good. MiguelChen.com. Pretty good place to find my books and stuff, and my online yoga school and all that.
Awesome.
Very cool. Well, Miguel, we're going to wrap it up, man, but we really appreciate having you on the show and, you taking time to do this. It was kind of a big deal for us, so just want to say thanks for that.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I appreciate you
good talk.
guys. And keep me posted, man. Let me know when this is up, and I'll get it up on our side.
Awesome, man.
Awesome.
And yeah, we'll looking forward to meeting you next time y'all get to come through Oklahoma.
Totally.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks again, man. Appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks, dudes. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. See you next week.
Bye.
Later.